Whispered confessions. Olivia Bennet tucked a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear as she reviewed the quarterly reports for the third time that evening. The Everett Tower's 40th floor was silent, except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant sounds of the city below. At 26, she hadn't imagined spending her evenings like this, surrounded by spreadsheets instead of fabric swatches and design sketches. "Still here, Ms. Bennet?" The deep voice startled her, and she looked up to find Dominic Everett. Leaning against the doorframe of his office, his tailored suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up to reveal tanned forearms. At 38, he commanded every room he entered, not just because he owned Everett Industries, but because of the intensity that radiated from him. "Just finishing the Tokyo proposal, Mr. Everett," she replied, trying to ignore the flutter in her chest. The numbers from research and development finally came in. Dominic nodded, crossing to the window that overlooked Manhattan's glittering skyline. "You should be designing dresses, not proofreading acquisition reports." The observation surprised her. In the 14 months she'd worked as his assistant, he rarely acknowledged her fashion design background, the dream she'd put on hold to pay off student loans with this well-paying corporate position. "The fashion world will still be there when I'm ready," she said, though uncertainty tinged her voice. Every month that passed made her abandoned sketchbooks feel more distant. "Talent shouldn't wait, Olivia." He rarely used her first name. It sounded different on his lips, almost intimate. "I've seen your sketches." Heat rushed to her cheeks. "My sketches. The ones you draw during conference calls when you think no one is watching." A rare half-smile crossed his face. "You have a gift." The unexpected compliment broke something loose inside her, a dam of emotions she'd carefully constructed over months of working closely with him. Through late nights, early mornings, and international trips, she'd developed feelings that went far beyond professional admiration. "Why do you do that?" she asked, surprising herself with her boldness. His eyebrows rose slightly. "Do what?" "Show glimpses of who you really are, then retreat behind your CEO mask." She stood, gathering courage, with each word. "Everyone warns new employees about you. The Ice King of Everett Industries, brilliant but cold. But that's not all you are." The silence between them stretched, crackling with tension. Dominic's jaw tightened, his gray eyes unreadable. "You should go home, Miss Bennet. It's late." "There it is again," she said softly. "The wall goes up whenever someone gets close. Perhaps it was exhaustion, or the gentle darkness of the office, or the way moonlight illuminated his features, softening them. Whatever the reason, Olivia couldn't stop the words that came next. "I've fallen in love with you, Dominic." The confession hung in the air between them. His expression shifted from surprise to something more complex, desire mingled with restraint. "You don't know what you're saying," he finally responded, his voice lower than before. "I know exactly what I'm saying." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "I've watched you build hospitals in developing countries without taking credit. I've seen how you mentor young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds. I know the man behind the reputation." Dominic moved toward her slowly, like a man approaching something precious and fragile. When he stood before her, close enough that she could smell his sandalwood cologne, he spoke carefully. "You deserve better than an office affair, Olivia. Better than whispers and rumors about how you advanced your career." His eyes searched hers. "If I allow myself to have you, it won't be halfway. It won't be secret stolen moments between meetings." Her breath caught as he brushed his thumb across her cheek. "I won't make you my assistant with benefits," he continued. "If we cross this line, you would be mine completely, and I would be yours. Are you ready for what that means?" The question wasn't what she had expected. Not rejection, not immediate passion, but something more meaningful and frightening. It was a promise and a warning wrapped together. "I don't understand," she whispered. Then we wait until you do. He stepped back, creating distance between them. Because I won't risk hurting you or watching you regret this when the novelty wears off. Olivia stood frozen, stunned by his response. She had prepared herself for rejection or even termination, not this careful consideration of her worth. Not this man who seemed to value her enough to resist his own desires. As Dominic turned to leave, he paused. Take tomorrow off. Clear your head. If you still want your job on Monday, it's yours. No awkwardness, no repercussions. And if I want more than just my job? She asked, finding her voice. He looked back, something raw and honest in his expression. Then we'll talk about what that means for both of us. But not in this office, not with these power dynamics between us. When the elevator doors closed behind him, Olivia sank back into her chair, heart racing. She had expected the worst, and received instead a glimpse of something she hadn't dared hope for, respect that went beyond desire. Guarded distances. Monday morning arrived with the sharp clarity that follows life-changing decisions. Olivia straightened, her navy pencil skirt, as she stepped into the gleaming lobby of Everett Tower, her weekends spent in alternating cycles of doubt and determination. The weight of Dominic's words, "If we cross this line, you would be mine completely," had echoed through her sleepless nights. "Morning, Olivia," called Penelope from reception, her curious gaze lingering a moment too long. "Heard you took Friday off. Everything okay?" "Just needed a personal day," Olivia replied with practiced casualness, knowing how quickly rumors spread through the company's 40 floors. She'd spent most of her unexpected day off wandering through the garment district, fingers trailing, over fabrics she once would have transformed into designs, wondering if she was trading one dream for another. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt interminable. When the doors finally opened, she was greeted by the familiar hustle of Everett Industries' nerve center, where she'd built her reputation as the most efficient assistant in the company. No one knew the cost of that efficiency. The abandoned sketchbooks, the delayed dreams, the complicated feelings for her boss. "He's waiting for you," said Gwendolyn, Dominic's executive secretary, a woman who had managed the administrative side of Everett Industries for 20 years. Her expression revealed nothing, but Olivia felt scrutinized nonetheless. Taking a deep breath, she knocked on the imposing mahogany door of Dominic's office. "Come in." He stood at the window, his back to the door, silhouetted against the morning sunlight. When he turned, his expression was carefully neutral, the vulnerability of Thursday night nowhere to be found. "Miss Bennett," he said formally, "I'm glad you decided to return." The professional distance in his voice stung more than she'd anticipated. "I value my position here," she answered, matching his tone. "Good. We have the Hong Kong investors arriving at 11. I need the latest projections and the revised presentation on my desk within the hour." And just like that, they slipped back into their roles, employer and employee, CEO and assistant. As Olivia moved to leave, Dominic spoke again, his voice softer. "Olivia." He rarely used her first name, and it stopped her in her tracks. "I meant what I said. Every word." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and closed the door behind her. The following weeks settled into a strange new rhythm. Torsiu. The surface, nothing had changed. Olivia still managed Dominic's impossible schedule, prepared his briefings, and anticipated his needs before he voiced them. But underneath flowed currents of unspoken tension, of moments when their fingers brushed during the exchange of documents, of glances that lingered seconds longer than propriety allowed. "Something's different with the Ice King," remarked Harrison, the marketing director, during a departmental lunch Olivia was coordinating. "He actually complimented Jameson's presentation yesterday. Almost seemed human." "Mr. Everett has always valued good work," Olivia defended automatically, ignoring the knowing look Penelope shot her across the table. Well, whatever's melting. The glacier, I hope it continues, Harrison replied. It's making everyone's lives easier. The rumors started small. Whispers about why Dominic had begun attending company social events he'd previously avoided. Questions about his suddenly more approachable demeanor. Olivia tried to ignore them, focusing instead on the subtle changes in their professional relationship. He'd begun leaving design magazines on her desk, international fashion publications that featured emerging designers. Market research, he'd say casually when she thanked him. He'd started asking her opinion on matters beyond her administrative role, valuing her perspective on creative directions for new product lines. 3 weeks after her confession, Olivia found herself working late again, the office empty except for the cleaning staff. She was surprised when Dominic emerged from his office in casual clothes, jeans and a simple gray sweater that transformed him from untouchable CEO to merely a handsome man. "You're still here," he observed, stopping at her desk. "Quarterly. Reports wait for no woman," she smiled, gesturing to her computer. "Have dinner with me," he said suddenly. Her heart stuttered. "Dinner? Not as your boss," he clarified. "As a man asking a woman he admires to share a meal." The distinction was important, critical even. "What about your rules? The boundaries you set?" "I set boundaries to protect you, not to push you away." He leaned against her desk, close, enough that she could see the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw. "But I've realized that avoiding what's between us isn't protecting either of us." "And the company policy on workplace relationships?" she asked, thinking of the strict guidelines in the employee handbook. "I wrote that policy," he reminded, her with a hint of a smile. "And I'm prepared to recuse myself from decisions regarding your position, salary, and advancement. Gwendolyn can handle your administrative reviews." The thought he'd put into this, into her professional protection, touched her deeply. "You've been planning this." "I've been considering all angles," he corrected. "It's what I do." "What? About the gossip?" "People will talk." She thought of Harrison's comments, of Penelope's curious stares. "They already do." His expression sobered. "But if that concerns you—" "It doesn't," she interrupted, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "I just needed to know you'd thought about it." "I've thought of little else these past weeks, Olivia." The raw honesty in his admission made her breath catch. This wasn't the calculating businessman speaking, but the man beneath, the one she'd glimpsed in rare, unguarded moments. "Then yes," she said softly. "I'll have dinner with you." Something close to relief crossed his features. "Tomorrow night? I know a place where we can talk privately." As she nodded her agreement, Dominic's phone rang, the special tone reserved for international emergencies. His expression hardened as he answered, transforming back into the CEO before her eyes. "I need to take this," he said after a terse exchange. "The Singapore deal is falling apart." "Go," she said, understanding immediately. "We'll have dinner tomorrow." He hesitated, then did something he'd never done before. Reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "This is important to me, Olivia. You are important." After he disappeared into his office, Olivia remained at her desk, her skin still tingling from his touch. She understood that for a man like Dominic Everett, that simple gesture represented a significant breach in his carefully constructed walls. For all his wealth and power, emotional vulnerability was the one risk he rarely took. As she gathered her things to leave, a text message illuminated her phone. "Tomorrow, 8 p.m., I'll send a car. D." The formality of the message made her smile. Even in this, he remained the structured, controlled businessman, except for that brief, unguarded touch that revealed so much more. Olivia realized she was witnessing the slow, deliberate melting of the Ice King's defenses, one careful degree at a time. And despite the complications, despite the workplace dynamics and the whispers that would inevitably follow, she found herself looking forward to discovering the man who existed beyond the boardroom, the man who was cautiously, methodically, making room for her in his guarded heart. Melting frost. The Singapore crisis expanded like a thundercloud, consuming what should have been Dominic and Olivia's first date. Instead of an intimate dinner, they spent the next 72 hours in conference rooms with sleep-deprived executives, untangling a web of miscommunications that threatened a $300 million deal. Olivia watched Dominic work, commanding, incisive, yet surprisingly patient with his team, and found herself falling deeper for the man behind the power. "The Jakarta team leaves in 4 hours," Dominic announced after the final video conference ended. The clock on the wall showed 11:27 p.m. "I need someone on the ground there to personally oversee the transition." His eyes found Olivia's across the conference table. "Ms. Bennett, can you prepare the briefing packets?" "Already done, sir," she replied, sliding a leather portfolio toward him. "And I've booked your suite at the Mandarin Oriental." A fleeting smile touched his lips, visible only to her. "Excellent. And you'll be joining the team, of course." This wasn't part of the plan. "Sir, pack for a week. The jet leaves at 4 a.m. 5 hours later, they were airborne in Everett Industries' private jet, accompanied by 3 executives who promptly fell asleep after takeoff. Olivia fought her own exhaustion, reviewing itineraries until the documents blurred before her eyes. "Rest," Dominic said quietly, appearing in the seat across from her. "You've been awake for nearly 30 hours. "So have you," she pointed out. "I'm used to it." He loosened his tie, transforming incrementally from CEO to simply Dominic. "I'm sorry about dinner." The simple apology surprised her. "Business comes first." "I understand." "Does it?" he asked, studying her with unusual intensity. "Should it?" Before she could answer, turbulence shook the plane, causing her to grip the armrests. Dominic moved to the seat beside her, his hand covering hers naturally. "Not a fan of flying?" he asked. "Not a fan of plummeting to my death," she admitted with a nervous smile. His thumb traced gentle circles on her wrist. "Did you know commercial aircraft are designed to withstand more than twice the force of the worst turbulence ever recorded?" The factual response was so characteristically Dominic that she laughed despite her anxiety. "Are you attempting to comfort me with statistics?" His expression softened. "Is it working?" Strangely, yes. The turbulence subsided, but his hand remained on hers, warm and reassuring. In the dim cabin, with their colleagues asleep around them, a different kind of intimacy developed. One built not on physical closeness, but on the gradual dismantling of professional facades. "Why fashion design?" he asked unexpectedly. The question startled her. "Most people ask why I gave it up, not why I chose it." "I'm not most people." "No," she agreed softly. "You're not." She considered her answer. "I love how clothing can transform someone, not just how they look, but how they feel about themselves. The right design can give someone confidence, comfort, power." "Like armor," he suggested. She'd never thought of it that way. "I suppose. So, what about you? Why business?" "Control," he answered without hesitation. "After my parents died, I had nothing. No say in where I lived, what happened to me. I promised myself I'd never be that powerless again." The personal revelation hung between them, more intimate than any touch. Olivia knew from company background materials that Dominic had been orphaned at 12, but he'd never spoken of it directly. "And now you control an empire," she observed. "An empire that owns me as much as I own it," he replied, a rare admission of the weight he carried. When they landed in Jakarta, professional distance returned. Dominic, the CEO, leading. His team, Olivia, the efficient assistant, 2 steps behind. But something had shifted between them. A door cracked open during those quiet hours above the clouds. The Jakarta crisis consumed their days, but the evenings became theirs. On their 3rd night, Dominic knocked on her hotel room door. "Dinner," he explained, holding up a bag of local street food. "Since we missed our reservation in New York." They ate on her balcony overlooking the city lights, Dominic surprisingly knowledgeable about Indonesian cuisine. As night deepened, so did their conversation. "Tell me about the foster homes," she ventured carefully, watching his expression cloud momentarily. "There were 4 in 6 years," he said after a pause. "Some better than others." "And after?" "A scholarship to Phillips Exeter Academy, then Harvard." His tone was matter-of-fact, but Olivia sensed the untold struggles behind those achievements. "No one helped you?" "My 5th-grade teacher, Mrs. Abernathy." Something in his expression softened. "She's the reason I fund educational initiatives. She saw potential when no one else did." As the tropical night enveloped them, Dominic spoke of things he rarely shared. The lonely holidays at boarding school, working 3 jobs through college, building his first company from a dorm room. Olivia listened, understanding that each revelation was a brick removed from the wall he'd constructed around himself. "Your turn," he said finally. "Why did you leave design behind?" he asked, the question she'd been dreading. "My father got sick my senior year. Medical bills piled up. After graduation, I needed something stable, something that..." Shadows from the past. Jakarta changed everything. Upon returning to New York, Olivia and Dominic maintained professional appearances at Everett Tower, but stolen moments in private revealed a relationship deepening beyond either's expectations. Late-night strategy sessions transformed into dinners at his penthouse. Weekend meetings became gallery visits and quiet walks through Central Park, where Dominic would point out architectural details most people overlooked. "You notice everything," Olivia observed one Sunday as they strolled past the Bethesda fountain. "Not everything," he replied, his fingers intertwined with hers. "I didn't notice you were extraordinary until you'd been working for me for months." 3 months into their carefully guarded relationship, Olivia found herself sketching again, regularly, designs flowing from her pencil with renewed passion. Dominic had converted a spare room in his penthouse into a studio space for her, complete, with a drafting table, fabric swatches, and industry-standard equipment. "You didn't have to do this," she'd whispered when he first showed her the space. "I wanted to," he'd replied simply. "Your talent shouldn't be confined to margins of meeting notes." One Wednesday morning, Olivia arrived at the office to find Gwendolyn looking uncharacteristically troubled. "She's waiting in the conference room," the older woman said cryptically. "Who is?" Olivia asked, setting down her bag. "Valerie Hargrove." Gwendolyn's disapproval was palpable. She insisted on seeing Dominic immediately. "But he's in the Bloomberg interview until 10. The name struck Olivia like a physical blow. Everyone at Everett Industries knew about Valerie Hargrove, Dominic's former fiancée and the company's previous head of acquisitions, who had left 3 years earlier under mysterious circumstances. Rumors suggested she'd sold company information to competitors, though nothing was ever proven publicly. Did she say what she wanted? Olivia kept her voice professional despite the sudden tightness in her chest. "Only that it's urgent and private." Gwendolyn lowered her voice. "Be careful with that one. She's trouble wrapped in Chanel." Squaring her shoulders, Olivia approached the conference room. Through the glass walls, she could see a striking woman with platinum blonde hair examining her manicure with studied boredom. When Olivia entered, Valerie looked up, Arctic blue eyes assessing her with immediate calculation. "Mr. Everett is unavailable until 10, Olivia stated professionally. I'm his assistant, Olivia Bennett. Is there something I can help you with? Valerie's perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched. You're the new one. Her gaze traveled over Olivia's simple but elegant sheath dress. Interesting, not his usual type. Olivia maintained her composure. Can I offer you coffee while you wait? How accommodating. Valerie's smile didn't reach her eyes. Tell me, does Dominic still work until midnight? Still forget to eat unless someone reminds him? The intimate knowledge of Dominic's habits felt like an invasion. Mr. Everett's schedule is quite demanding. And you're managing it thoroughly, I'm sure. The insinuation hung in the air. Coffee would be lovely. Black, no sugar. When Olivia returned with the coffee, Valerie was examining the design. Sketches Olivia had accidentally left in her portfolio on the conference table. These are good, Valerie said, sounding genuinely surprised. You're wasting your talent fetching coffee. I appreciate the assessment, Olivia replied evenly, closing the portfolio. Oh, don't be sensitive, Valerie waved a dismissive hand. I started as his assistant, too. It's a particular position in Dominic's life. Before Olivia could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. Interview ended early. On my way up. Everything okay? Mr. Everett will be here momentarily, she informed Valerie, maintaining her professional demeanor despite the woman's needling. Wonderful. Valerie's smile turned predatory. We have so much to discuss. When Dominic entered minutes later, Olivia watched his expression transform from relaxed to guarded in an instant. His eyes flicked to her briefly, a silent question, before addressing his ex-fiancée. Valerie, this is unexpected. Dominic, darling. Valerie rose gracefully. You're looking well. Success continues to suit you. What do you want? His tone was ice cold. Such hostility. She pouted theatrically. Can't old friends catch up? We were never friends, he stated flatly. State your business or leave. Valerie's playful demeanor shifted. Fine. Straight Ventures is moving to acquire Nextech Innovations, your current acquisition target. I'm leading their strategy. Olivia saw Dominic's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Nextech was the keystone of his expansion plans, a company whose breakthrough medical technology aligned perfectly with Everett Industries' healthcare division. That's public information, Dominic responded coolly, hardly worth a personal visit. The personal visit is because I have something you want. Valerie withdrew a flash drive from her purse. Information that would make your acquisition smoother. If you're suggesting corporate espionage, nothing so dramatic, she interrupted. Let's call it specialized knowledge from my previous work with Nextech's board members. Her gaze shifted to Olivia, who was taking notes. Perhaps this conversation should be private? Ms. Bennett stays, Dominic stated firmly. Whatever you have to say can be said in front of her. Something calculating flickered in Valerie's eyes. How trusting you've become. Interesting. For the next 20 minutes, Valerie outlined an elaborate proposal, essentially offering insider information. In exchange for a consulting fee and a position on Everett Industries' executive committee, throughout her pitch, she dropped personal references to her history with Dominic, each one a calculated reminder of their intimate past. Olivia maintained her professional composure, though each casual "remember when we" felt like a needle under her skin. She noticed how Dominic's posture grew increasingly rigid, his responses more clipped. I'll need time to consider your proposal, he finally said, clearly wanting to end the meeting. Of course. Valerie smiled, gathering her things. I'm staying at the Peninsula. You remember which suite I prefer. She handed him a business card, letting her fingers linger on his. Call me when you're ready to negotiate. After she left, silence hung heavily in the conference room. Dominic ran a hand through his hair. a rare gesture of frustration. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," he said finally. "It's fine," Olivia replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "She's not what I expected." "Valerie excels at being unexpected." His expression darkened. "And dangerous." That evening in his penthouse, Dominic revealed the full story, how Valerie had nearly destroyed both his company and him personally 3 years earlier. "She was brilliant at acquisitions," he explained, pouring himself a rare second scotch. "And I believed I loved her. 2 mistakes that nearly cost me everything." Olivia listened as he described discovering Valerie's betrayal, how she had manipulated company information, played both sides of deals, and nearly tanked a major merger through her double-dealing. "Why didn't you press charges?" Olivia asked. "Insufficient proof for criminal charges, and a public scandal would have damaged investor confidence when the company was vulnerable." His expression hardened. "I paid a settlement to make her go away. Until now." "Do you think her information about Nextech is legitimate?" "Possibly. Valerie never makes moves without calculation." He set down his glass. "But working with her would be making a deal with the devil." The following weeks brought an escalating corporate chess match. Valerie began appearing at industry events Dominic attended, always perfectly poised, always with a knowing smile. Rumors circulated about her role in the Nextech acquisition battle. Worse, whispers began about Olivia's relationship with Dominic, rumors Olivia suspected Valerie was cultivating. "People are talking," Harrison warned Olivia in the break room one morning. "Valerie's telling everyone you're just Dominic's latest distraction." The gossip stung, but it was the subtle sabotage that truly troubled her. Design sketches disappeared from her desk. Meetings were mysteriously rescheduled without her knowledge. Client emails went missing from the server. "She's trying to make me look incompetent," Olivia realized, explaining the pattern to Dominic. "Or trying to drive a wedge between us," he responded grimly. "It's her standard playbook." The situation escalated when Olivia discovered her portfolio, containing months of new designs, missing from her office. That same day, fashion blog Industry Insider published an exclusive preview of suspiciously familiar designs attributed to an anonymous up-and-coming designer working with Valerie Hargrove's new fashion venture. "She stole my work," Olivia said, showing Dominic the blog on her tablet. Her hands trembled with anger and distress. Dominic's expression darkened dangerously. "This ends now." The next morning, he called an emergency board meeting. Olivia wasn't invited, but Gwendolyn, who had served the company for decades and missed nothing, filled her in afterward. He presented evidence of Valerie's past misconduct, material that was excluded from the settlement agreement, the older woman reported. Then he announced that Everett Industries is launching a fashion division with you as creative director. Olivia's heart stopped. "He what?" Olivia studied the spreadsheets, her mind toggling between business strategy and the evening gown designs waiting on her tablet. As both Dominic's romantic partner and the newly appointed creative director of Everett Fashion, she straddled 2 worlds. The corporate realm she'd entered for practicality and the creative one she'd abandoned for survival. "What if we approach this differently?" she suggested, an idea forming. "Valerie expects you to fight her directly, corporate warrior to corporate warrior. It's the battlefield she's prepared for." Dominic looked up, intrigued. "What are you thinking? A collaboration rather than an acquisition?" Olivia pulled up research she'd been quietly conducting. Nextech's founders are scientists first, business people second. Their primary concern isn't maximizing profit, it's ensuring their technology reaches patients who need it. For the next hour, they outlined an unconventional approach, a proposal centered on patient access and scientific advancement rather than market dominance. By morning, Dominic had drafted a new strategy that would completely circumvent Valerie's influence. "This could work," he said. watching the sunrise paint Manhattan's skyline in gold and rose. "You're remarkable, you know that?" "I'm just applying design thinking to business," she replied with a smile. "Sometimes the most elegant solution isn't the most obvious one." The following weeks brought frenetic activity as Olivia balanced her growing responsibilities at Everett Fashion with supporting Dominic's next tech strategy. The dual roles sometimes felt like inhabiting parallel universes, presenting her first collection to industry critics by day, analyzing corporate structures by night. 3 weeks before Fashion Week, where Everett Fashion would make its official debut, Dominic called Olivia into a formal meeting with the company's legal team. The gravity in his expression immediately concerned her. "What's wrong?" she asked, once they were alone in his office. "The ethics committee is questioning our relationship," he said directly. "Apparently, anonymous concerns have been raised about potential favoritism in your appointment as creative director." Olivia's stomach dropped. "Valerie?" "Most likely." His expression was grim. "She couldn't stop the fashion division, so she's attacking your position within it." "What does the committee want?" "Full disclosure of our relationship timeline. Documentation of your qualifications separate from my assessment. Evidence that your appointment followed standard corporate protocols." He hesitated. "And one of us may need to consider a different position within the company structure." The implications hit Olivia like a physical blow. Either she would step down from the creative role she'd only just reclaimed, or Dominic would need to distance himself from direct oversight of the division he'd created for her. "There's another option," she said quietly. "I could leave Everett Industries entirely." His head snapped up. "That's not an option." "It is, Dominic. I could launch my own label. You could be an investor rather than my employer. And let Valerie win? Let her drive you out of a position you've earned?" Anger colored his voice. "Absolutely not." "This isn't about Valerie," Olivia insisted. "It's about what's sustainable. As long as I'm your employee and your partner, there will always be questions, always be shadows on my accomplishments." The truth hung heavily between them. For all his power and influence, Dominic couldn't change the fundamental dynamics at play. The inherent imbalance of their professional relationship colored everything, provided ammunition to enemies like Valerie, and placed constraints on Olivia's achievements. 2 days before her Fashion Week debut, Olivia stood in her studio at Everett Tower, surrounded by the collection that represented her re-emergence as a designer. Mannequins displayed evening wear that seamlessly blended architectural precision with flowing femininity. Garments that told the story of her journey from corporate constraint to creative freedom. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Expecting her assistant, she called, "Come in," without turning. "Impressive work," came Valerie's cool voice instead. Olivia turned slowly, maintaining her composure despite the unwelcome intrusion. "This area is restricted to division personnel." "Yes. Well, security makes exceptions for former executives." Valerie moved through the studio, examining the garments with a critical eye. "I underestimated you, Olivia Bennett. I thought you were just another of Dominic's diversions." "You don't know anything about my relationship with Dominic." "Don't I?" Valerie trailed her manicured fingers along a midnight blue gown. "I know he has a pattern. Find exceptional talent. Nurture it. Control it. Own it. If you've come to undermine my confidence before Fashion Week, you're wasting your time. Actually, I came to offer you a job." At Olivia's startled expression, Valerie continued, "Straight Ventures is launching a luxury brand division. We need a creative director with vision. You stole my designs and now you want to hire me?" Olivia couldn't hide her disbelief. "Business, darling. Nothing personal." Valerie shrugged elegantly. "You have talent. I respect talent, even when I'm working against it. I'm not interested. No? Not even with complete creative control? No boyfriend boss complicating your achievements?" Valerie's gaze was shrewd. The Ethics Committee investigation is just the beginning, Olivia. As long as you're under Dominic's corporate umbrella, your work will never truly be recognized as your own. The words struck a nerve, voicing the very doubts that had plagued Olivia's quieter moments. "Get out," she said quietly. Valerie left her business card on a drafting table. "When you realize you need to stand on your own to be taken seriously, call me. My offer stands until Fashion Week." After Valerie left, Olivia sank into her chair, the woman's words echoing uncomfortably. For all her manipulative intent, Valerie had articulated the fundamental dilemma Olivia had been avoiding, the impossible balance of being both Dominic's professional subordinate and his equal partner. That evening, she arrived at Dominic's penthouse to find him surrounded by Nextech documents, his focus intense. "We've made a breakthrough with the collaboration strategy," he announced, looking up with rare excitement. "The Nextech board is considering our proposal. They're voting tomorrow." The timing felt symbolic, his greatest corporate achievement, potentially coinciding with her creative debut. Two paths converging at a critical junction. "Dominic," she said carefully, "we need to talk about what happens after Fashion Week." Something in her tone made him set aside the documents completely. "What's wrong?" She told him about Valerie's visit, about the job offer, about the uncomfortable truths that had been stirred up. As she spoke, she watched his expression shift, from anger at Valerie's interference to something more complex, understanding tinged with sadness. "You're considering it," he said finally. It wasn't a question. Not her offer specifically, Olivia clarified, but the underlying issue. "Yes, I've been thinking about it, about what comes next." Dominic moved to the window, his back to her, shoulders bearing the weight of decisions yet unmade. When he turned, his expression had cleared, as though he'd come to a conclusion during those silent moments. "I have something to show you," he said, retrieving a folder from his safe. "I was waiting for the right moment, but perhaps that moment is now." Inside was a detailed business plan for Bennett Designs, an independent fashion house with Olivia as founder and creative director, and initial investment funding already secured. "You've been planning this?" she asked, stunned by the thoroughness of the proposal. "For 3 months," he admitted. "Ever since you showed me your full portfolio. I knew eventually you would need to create on your own terms, not as an extension of Everett Industries." The thoughtfulness of the gesture, preparing for her independence even while building her a place within his company, moved her deeply. "Why? Didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted you to come to the decision yourself, when you were ready." His gaze was steady. "I never wanted to own your talent, Olivia. I just wanted to help it flourish." The realization of how completely he understood her, perhaps better than she understood herself, brought unexpected tears to her eyes. "What about the Ethics Committee? The Fashion Division?" "The Fashion Division was always meant to be a launch pad, not a destination," he said simply. "As for the Ethics Committee, perhaps it's time I reconsider my own position as well." "What do you mean?" Dominic took her hands in his. "For 20 years I've defined myself by Everett Industries, built walls around myself to protect what I created. Then you came along and made me question whether controlling an empire is worth sacrificing a life." "You're not thinking of leaving the company?" Alarm colored her voice. Not leaving entirely, but stepping back from daily operations. He smiled slightly at her surprise. "The board has been suggesting for years that I consider becoming chairman. Rather than CEO, it would give me oversight without the day-to-day management. More time for other priorities." The implication hung between them, a future where their relationship wouldn't be complicated by direct professional hierarchy, where both could pursue their passions without shadows of impropriety or questions of favoritism. "This is a lot to process," Olivia said honestly. "We don't need to decide tonight," he assured her. "After Fashion Week, after the Nextech situation resolves, we'll have time to consider our path forward.